It's time to cozy on up in the kitchen for some fall homemaking as I spend a couple days sharing some recipes, some cleaning, and just being in the heart of the home, my kitchen. The mornings are a little cooler and the daylight is a little shorter, so that means lighting the candles in the morning and the evening. This time of year is a beautiful time to cozy up the kitchen as I make my coffee, as I make the breakfast, to enjoy the candlelight meals. And I also made little milk steamers for my girls to enjoy as we share our drinks together. A basket full of apples calls my name this morning as I prepare some apple cider because it is a delicious warming drink. And I've made this recipe for you, but I didn't have oranges, so I threw in some mandarins, some cloves, some cinnamon stick, and it just is a natural potpourri for the home. And it's such a delicious treat to share. So I've made enough for several gallons in our freezer and some to have fresh. Then it's off to making the next recipe, which is some homemade buns. And we were having guests the coming weekend, and I wanted to get those prepped ahead of time, as when you have guests over that you want to enjoy the time with, you don't want to be in the kitchen preparing a bunch of food. And I don't buy homemade breads ever, really. I used to several years ago, but I haven't bought bread in quite some time. So I will share any recipe that I make down in the description box for you, and the one that is over on my blog as well that you'll see later on. But fresh dinner rolls, fresh hamburger buns, they aren't very difficult with just a quick yeast. They don't take very long, and they just are so good. And then I put the everything bagel seasoning on top after I put an egg wash over it, and that just adds a nice touch to a homemade bun. Some early afternoon butterflies playing on my zinnias that are still slightly blooming. And then I'm going to spend a little time cleaning the kitchen. So my cabinets just get grimy per usual, right? It's the end of the season of bugs and flies. And this time of year, I feel like they really just cling to things. So getting the white cabinets cleaned and scrubbed, and making sure that it's just ready for being used more often in the kitchen. Because, like I said, fall is the time to be cozier and inside a little bit more. So I like taking care of this wiping down of my white cabinets at least every 2 months, I would say. I don't do a detailed wipe down every week, but as often as I can, which is about probably every 2 months. And then even in the cracks of the handles, I'll either remove them and wipe off all the crumbs that fall, or just use like a little paper towel and a toothpick actually to get in the crevices of there to get all the crumbs out that seemingly fall in those spaces often. Our kitchen, if you didn't know, was redone about seven years ago, I want to say. And we just repainted the cabinets. We put butcher block countertop on top and added the subway tile backsplash. It originally was gray floor tile as our countertops and our backsplash. We had gray floor tile in our bathroom, in our back porch, and on our kitchen countertop. So they must have had a bulk deal, the previous owners, and just used it everywhere. But I'm appreciating the simplicity, but yet the lovely kitchen that we've created, even if it's now well used and honestly getting a little worn. But caring for it still matters to me. And then just cleaning the kitchen faucet. The sink, we also got the Apron farmhouse sink new. We bought that new. And I enjoy having the 2 basin sink and not just the one. But the faucet always needs cleaning, right? Unscrewing that top because grime and gunk build up. And soaking that top in vinegar and lemon really helps clear off the grody-ness, the scum buildup on there as well. And so just getting things clean so it can be used well. After some cleaning, it's time to move on to the next recipe, and I wanted to make some gluten-free chocolate chip cookies for our guests who are coming over, as they have some celiac and some just gluten intolerance as well. So I enjoy baking and making things for people, but I knew I needed to be considerate of their allergies, so making some chocolate chip cookies gluten-free. And then for supper that evening, we were having a homemade tomato soup. The tomatoes are still producing when this video was filmed, which was a couple weeks ago from when you were seeing this. The tomatoes are really coming on, and I have these beautiful yellow tomatoes that I was going to use as well. Little cherry and grape tomatoes, and then just your normal Romas and some other tomatoes as well that I am roasting with some fresh garlic, fresh onion from the garden, putting a few spices on there, drizzled with olive oil, and there it is roasted. It's such an easy tomato soup recipe, and I know that people will enjoy it. And then you gotta have another afternoon latte. I use this pumpkin spice stevia flavored drops because why not, right? And doing a little attempt at some latte art. I think it kind of turned out to a leaf or something of that form. So in the pot, I am putting some homemade chicken broth and then the roasted tomatoes, onion, and garlic in there as well. And it's just going to simmer for a while. I have some fresh sourdough bread and cheese ready for grilled cheese to go along with that. Then after it simmers for a while, the immersion blender. It's a great friend in this video, as both my soups require an immersion blender. You could probably use a blender, but you'd probably want the soups to cool first. So immersion blenders are wonderful because you don't have to worry about them being too hot when you transfer to a blender. You can just stick your immersion blender right in there. So it just makes it nice and creamy and very much lovely for the kids because they enjoy it. And then I put some heavy cream in there and then even serve it up with some heavy cream. My husband was gone this evening and his favorite dish was tomato soup and grilled cheese. So he had to eat it leftover, but the kids really enjoyed it. And then it's time to do some evening kitchen cleanup. The sun is streaming through the window as it sets, and I'm enjoying hearing the kids play, seeing the sun go down as I do my nightly routine of cleaning. So after the kids went down, I knew I needed to do a little more prepping for the guests who are coming. And so I am preparing some applesauce sourdough muffins. And this is one that's over on my blog, but I make it as a bread. And I also did substitute einkorn flour because that works for my gluten-free friends. They are able to handle einkorn flour. because it's more of a raw flour, not as processed. Anyways, you can check out the recipe on the blog. Apple season, like I said, is still here. We're working through apples, so why not try this delicious applesauce bread and use some of your sourdough starter along the way. My baked goods are done and are going to be ready for our guests when they come in a couple days. Hanging up my apron for the night as the next day will approach. So it is a homeschool morning. So as the kiddos are coloring and doing a little activity at the counter, I do a little last cleanup of breakfast, putting some things back under the sink, and checking out the next recipe that I'm going to make, which is some homemade caramel rolls and cinnamon rolls. So these recipes are probably not on the internet because they are from an old cookbook that I have, but they are a delicious recipe to try. The recipe for the rolls is exactly the same other than the caramel sauce inside. And you will see the secret ingredient later on with the caramel sauce. And I think that just adds such a creaminess to the caramel rolls. So the dough is being formed. I'm going to let it rise for a while, about an hour or so, while we do our homeschool, and come back to it. So the kitchen is all cozy on this day as well. The candles are lit as we sit at our table to do some learning, do some creating, do some coloring, and just enjoy the time bonding in the kitchen. And then when we are done with the school, I get back to the dough and I'm going to roll it out, put the cinnamon sugar mixture in these ones because these are the cinnamon rolls, and the next ones are caramel rolls. And it is just so fun to make some fun treats and I guess breakfast foods. This one was actually for my husband's church breakfast that they were doing. So oftentimes when you see me baking extra things, it's for events or other people as well, not just us. Because, if I baked all the time for us, that probably wouldn't be the best thing to have all these treats and goodies lying around. I love making food, as most of you know, and sharing the love of what I do with other people. So I do not roll out any dough on my butcher block, and I don't usually cut on it. So I have this mat that I purchased from Amazon. I'll try to remember to link it for you. And then I just cut it with a sharp serrated knife and put it into the pan to rise a little bit longer before I bake it. Taking a little break to enjoy the beautiful outdoors and cutting the last of the zinnias that are by our guest cottage to grace my countertop. The flowers are quickly fading and I'm collecting all the dried seeds from the zinnias because I'm hoping to be able to plant them next year and enjoy them in the same space, and also sharing a lot of the seeds. Many people who go by have asked me to come and pick some of the dried zinnia seeds because they're just so beautiful, so tall, and it just adds such vibrancy to the guest cottage and would be to anybody's space. So I'm adding them into my pitcher, putting them on the counter where I can see them while I work. So now I'm making the caramel sauce for the caramel rolls, and in this container is homemade vanilla ice cream. That is the beautiful ingredient. My husband makes homemade ice cream for us from our raw milk that we get, and it just is delicious. So I thought I would use that to make the caramel sauce for the rolls. And then you put that into the pan. As you can see, the other rolls are already baked, and so pouring the caramel sauce on the bottom so the rolls can absorb into that delicious ooey gooey sauce. And of course, after you bake it, you do have to invert them to serve them. I do not ever show footage of that part, but I think you all get the idea of how caramel rolls work. They are just a delicious treat, and we did not come back with very many from the men's Bible study and breakfast. On to the next recipe, which is a very simple butternut squash soup. This soup is one I've shared in the past, but I wanted to officially put it on here and put it over on my blog, DaveeKilian.com, because it's a go-to for me, and it's one that I think every home should try, especially during the squash season. So it's simple in the fact of ingredients. Of course, there's some prep work because cutting up squash takes time, and then roasting it, and then immersion blending it. Like, everything just takes time if you're cooking from scratch, right? But it's very simple with butternut squash, apples, garlic, onion, and salt and chicken stock. That's it. And it's just something that is cozy, warming. I'm making it more in bulk here because I have 3 squash. You could reduce the recipe if you want, but over on the blog, I'll be sharing it more for serving 12 because I love having leftover soups, especially in the fridge, to pull out for later in the week and have as leftovers. So I put it in my big Dutch oven to put oil on it just to stir it up easier because I knew I'd be cooking it in there later. And then I just roasted it on 2 separate pans that I have, salted it, and then let it bake. So another cleaning project while some food is cooking. I think that's my tendency. If I know I'm going to be in the kitchen for a little while with food baking or cooking, then I can do a little bit of cleaning. My trash can was bugging me. Yes, we do have a quite small trash can for a family of 5, but we take it out almost daily, and I like having it tucked away underneath our kitchen sink. That's just where we have it right now. So it got gross on the bottom, black stuff, maybe mold, I don't know, but it needed a good cleaning. So I used my water, vinegar, lemon essential oil spray, and a rag to get it all cleaned out. And that DIY recipe for the cleaning spray is on my blog as well, if you're interested in having that, and printing it out if you want to keep it on hand so you can pull it out when you regularly need it or when you want to make your DIY spray. So while I had the trash can out, I just wiped out under the sink because sometimes garbage and trash gets missed and we need to clean that out a little bit. All right, the trash and under sink is wiped out, and now I needed to just refill my soap. This soap is a really good smelling basil dish soap, and I get it from bulk on Amazon. So again, trying to remember everything I need to link for you, which I will do. So things are restocked, everything's cleaned out a little bit, and time to make a granola bar. I usually make protein bars for my family for snacks, but I wanted to try a granola bar. And this is an dehydrated apple, supposed to be pumpkin seed granola bar. I don't have any pumpkin seeds, but I did use my dehydrated apples that I had some warming spices of clove, nutmeg, and cinnamon. Then you put some coconut oil in there, a little peanut butter, and mix it all together. And it's just a nice homemade granola bar that doesn't require Rice Krispies or corn syrup. It's all clean ingredients that I love, that I stick with for my family as much as possible. Don't get me wrong, we have processed granola bars or packaged granola bars. Try to keep those as unprocessed as possible. But Sometimes we just need packages, right, for trips, things like that. But I'm glad to have a homemade granola bar that I think I'll keep in my repertoire of snack foods to make. All right, the squash, apples, onion, garlic are all roasted, so I'm putting them back into the Dutch oven to simmer some more, as I will be putting some more chicken broth over that as well. Like I said, mornings and evenings are cozy and a time to light the candles. My girls enjoy having candlelit meals. They often ask for it. And so I wanted to have some candles lit again on this evening just to cozy it up. And I enjoy having that inviting vibe when my husband comes home from work as well. So here's the immersion blender again, taking its job and doing well with getting all the soup pureed and leaving it pretty smooth. If there's a few chunks in there, my family doesn't mind, but if your family would mind and not having it chunky, make sure it's very blended well. So you can tell it's just so creamy and delicious. So we like to serve it with homemade croutons sometimes, add some more cream. I've put bacon on top to have more protein, or we'll eat a side of a meat sandwich or deli meat or something else. And the sun is setting, as you can see my beautiful flowers there. I'm cutting the granola bars that had been refrigerated for a couple hours. Finishing up the evening with my kitchen cleanup routine and enjoying the rest of the sunset as we close down the kitchen.